My name is Emily Johnson, and I always thought things with Jake were fine. Not a fairy tale, of course, but who in Springfield, Ohio, lives like they're in a Hollywood movie? We had a little house with peeling paint on the porch, a white picket fence we'd promised to repaint 2 years ago, and a lawn overrun with dandelions because neither Jake nor I ever got around to mowing it. I worked at the Liberty Mutual Insurance office, slogging through Excel spreadsheets until 7 every evening, while Jake stayed home with our 3-year-old daughter, Sophie. I went back to work 3 months after giving birth. Mortgage payments and utility bills don't wait. Jake didn't bother looking for a job, saying, "Someone's got to be home while Sophie's little." I agreed, though it annoyed me sometimes, especially when I'd come home exhausted and find him sprawled on the couch with a beer and a bag of chips, acting like he'd spent the day slaying dragons instead of watching cartoons with Sophie. Sophie went to a local daycare called Sunny Smiles, a cute place with colorful walls, swings in the yard, and the faint smell of Play-Doh in the halls. Her teacher, Miss Kelly, was a young woman, maybe 25, with a blonde ponytail she always tied with bright scrunchies, pink one day, blue the next. She was always in jeans, sneakers, and a smile that looked like it belonged in a toothpaste ad. "Oh, Emily, Sophie's such a smarty, so creative," she'd chirp every time I picked my daughter up. I'd smile back because I liked that Sophie adored her. Sophie often rambled about how Miss Kelly read them stories or helped them draw. "Mommy, she knows how to draw a unicorn with wings," she'd say, clutching her crooked but adorable drawings where the unicorns looked more like horned cows. I even considered baking Kelly cookies for Christmas, as a thank you for being so caring. Little did I know she'd end up caring for more than just Sophie. It all started in the fall when the leaves on our lawn turned yellow and the evenings grew chilly. I noticed Jake acting strange. He'd always been a bit scatterbrained, forgetting to buy milk, leaving dirty socks in the middle of the kitchen, or accidentally eating half my chocolate bar, but this was different. He started hiding his phone. Before, he'd leave it anywhere, on the kitchen table, the couch, even by the bathroom sink, and I could grab it to check the weather or order pizza. Now, he carried it everywhere, even to the bathroom. One night, I walked into the kitchen after work to pour myself some coffee and saw him sitting at the table, phone to his ear, whispering something with a goofy grin. That dumb smile, the one he got when telling his buddies jokes about fishermen or drunk Santas, set off alarm bells. "Who are you talking to?" I asked, trying to sound casual even though my stomach tightened. "Oh, just Tom. About football," he brushed me off, not even looking up. "Tom's his college buddy who works at an auto shop now, but I'm not deaf." I clearly heard a woman's voice on the other end, high-pitched, squeaky, like someone giggling in delight. "Football, huh?" I pressed, but he was already up, muttering about grabbing another beer from the fridge. I tried to calm myself down. "Emily, don't overthink it," I repeated in my head while washing dishes that night. Maybe it was Tom, and I was just wiped out from work? But the next day, I noticed Jake shaving more often. He used to go weeks with stubble, claiming it was trendy and rugged, but now he was clean-shaven every day, like on our wedding day. And the shirts, he swapped his old ketchup-stained tees with holes under the armpits for decent button-ups I'd snagged on sale at Target last summer. "Where you headed?" I asked one morning as he stood in front of the bathroom mirror, slicking his sandy hair with gel that reeked like floor polish. "Nowhere, just felt like it," he said, but his eyes darted like a kid lying about a broken vase. I stood in the doorway, holding Sophie's jacket, thinking, "Jake, you didn't even dress up this much for job interviews 5 years ago. What's going on?" Then Sophie dropped the bombshell. It was a Friday, and I'd come home beat, cooking spaghetti for dinner. She ran into the kitchen with her little unicorn backpack we'd bought at Walmart before daycare started. "Mommy, Daddy picked me up with Miss Kelly today, and they sat in the car so long I fell asleep in the back," she said, her blue eyes wide. I was stirring sauce at the stove, and the spoon slipped from my hand. Red tomatoes splattered across the white tiles, and the empty ragu jar rolled under the table, but I didn't care. "What did you say, sweetie?" I asked, my heart pounding in my throat. "Well, Daddy and Miss Kelly were talking in the car and I waited. Then I fell asleep," she repeated innocently, reaching for her apple juice on the table. She added, "Miss Kelly laughed funny, like Minnie Mouse in the cartoons." I set the pot aside, wiped my hands on my apron and marched to Jake. He was in the living room, flipping channels on the TV, a Budweiser in hand. Some dumb fishing reality show flickered on the screen, but he wasn't watching, just clicking the remote like a robot. So, you're riding around with Sophie's teacher now? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't even glance up. Emily, don't make stuff up. I was just checking the car. Something's off with the engine, he mumbled, like that explained everything. I took a deep breath, fighting the urge to explode. In the car? With Kelly? What were you checking, Jake? I snapped, my voice rising. He finally looked at me, but his eyes darted like a dog caught peeing on the rug. Nothing big, just chatted about Sophie, he said, jumping up to grab another beer. I followed him to the kitchen. Jake, seriously? I can smell it in the car. I yelled. And it was true. When I got in our old Toyota Camry the next morning to head to work, it didn't smell like gas or oil, but like cheap, cloying perfume, like someone had spilled IHOP syrup all over the seats. I even checked under the seat, thinking maybe Sophie had spilled some fruity spray, but no, this wasn't a kid's scent. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the crack in the ceiling stretching from the light fixture to the window, replaying everything. Jake snored beside me like a freight train, arms sprawled so I could barely move under the blanket. Emily, are you paranoid? Maybe it's a coincidence. I thought. But images flashed in my mind. Jake with his goofy grin, Kelly with her perfect ponytail, Sophie asleep in the back while they checked the engine. I remembered how Kelly always lingered to talk to Jake when he picked Sophie up. I'd thought it was normal, a teacher updating a parent, maybe about Sophie forgetting to tie her shoes or eating an extra cupcake. But now I recalled her laughing too hard at his jokes, touching his shoulder when she handed over Sophie's drawings. How could I be so blind? I whispered into the dark, gripping the blanket until my nails dug into my palms. The next day, I decided to act. I called work and told my boss I had a migraine. Jerry, I can't come in today. My head splitting, I lied, though the ache was from my thoughts, not the weather. Jerry, a gruff old guy with a walrus mustache, just grunted, "Fine, get better," and hung up. I dropped Sophie off at daycare, flashed Kelly a fake smile like nothing was up, and drove home. But I didn't stay there. I parked around the corner from Sunny Smiles where no one could spot me and waited. I held a Starbucks latte with caramel syrup, grabbed from the drive-thru to calm my nerves. The radio played some pop tune, Taylor Swift whining about another guy dumping her, but I wasn't listening. My head buzzed, and my fingers nervously squeezed the cardboard cup. Hours ticked by. I sat there, gnawing my nails despite swearing I'd quit that habit in college, staring at the daycare door. Around 3, I saw him, Jake. He was in the jeans I'd ironed last week, holding a pathetic bouquet of daisies, obviously plucked from some roadside ditch. He carried them like they were $100 roses from a downtown florist. I squinted to see better. Then out came Miss Kelly, short denim skirt, white tee with some cheesy live, laugh, love slogan and sneakers. She didn't look like a teacher, more like a college kid headed to a frat party, minus the beer. My face flushed, and my hands shook so bad I nearly spilled my latte. They got into our Toyota. I expected them to drive off, but the car didn't move. The window was cracked, and I saw Kelly toss her head back laughing while Jake leaned in, whispering something. Her ponytail swung like a pendulum, and he grinned in a way he hadn't at me in 5 years. My stomach churned like I'd been punched. I leapt out, leaving my coffee on the seat, and ran to their window. I yanked the passenger door open, and there it was, pure trash. Kelly was practically climbing onto Jake, her hand on his knee, his arm around her waist like they were in some low-budget rom-com. The daisies were strewn across the floor, a petal stuck to her sneaker, and the car reeked of that same sickly sweet perfume, like a whole bottle of $5 Bath and Body Works had exploded. I screamed, "Jake, are you insane? This is Sophie's teacher." He jolted back, smacking his head on the headrest, his face turning tomato red. "Emily, it's not what you think," he stammered, his voice shaking like a kid caught stealing candy. Kelly squeaked, "Oh, I didn't know he was married." I rolled my eyes so hard I nearly saw my brain. "Seriously, Kelly? Sophie's been here 3 years. Did you miss the ring on his finger? Or think I'm just her nanny?" I shouted, tears stinging my eyes, but I held them back. No way I'd let them see me break. Jake tried again. "Emily, it just happened. I cut him off." "Just happened? You just happened to grab flowers and put her in our car? Just happened to grope her while our daughter's drawing you hearts at daycare?" I spun to Kelly. "And you, teacher of the year, what's your excuse? Is this how you engage parents at Sunny Smiles?" She blinked, tugging her skirt down like that'd fix anything. Her ponytail was a mess, lipstick smeared. She looked like a scared schoolgirl, not a grown woman. I didn't stick around for more. Pack your stuff and get out, Jake. Go check engines with Kelly, but leave me and Sophie out of it, I said. He mumbled, Emily, don't overreact. Let's talk. But I was already walking away. That night, he grabbed a single bag. Half his stuff was already junk in the garage anyway. I stood at the door, watching him toss in his sneakers, a couple shirts, and that stupid baseball from college he kept as a souvenir. Where you going? I asked, not caring. Crashing at Tom's, he muttered, got in the Toyota and drove off. I locked the door twice and went to wash dishes to distract myself. My hands shook, plates clattered in the sink, but I held it together. The next day, I called my friend Sarah, the only person I could spill this mess to. Sarah's been my bestie since high school, tall, red-headed, with a teacher's voice and a temper that could scare off mailmen. We met at Brewed Awakening, a coffee shop downtown. I sat by the window with a cappuccino, waiting as she parked her beat-up Ford Focus. She walked in, shaking rain off her umbrella, and plopped down. What's up? You look like your dog died, she said, ordering an espresso. I took a breath and spilled it. Sarah, you won't believe this. Jake's cheating. With Sophie's teacher. Her eyebrows shot up so high I thought they'd get stuck in her bangs. What? That Kelly? Ponytail and dumb tease, she asked, nearly spilling her coffee when the waitress brought it. I nodded and laid it all out, the phone, the car perfume, the daisies, the Toyota scene. Sarah listened, cutting in with, you're kidding. He's a total moron. When I got to catching them, she slammed her fist on the table, rattling the spoons. Emily, I always said Jake's a loser. But this? Rock bottom. What did you do? She demanded, green eyes drilling into me. Kicked him out, I said, swallowing a lump in my throat. She nodded approvingly. Good. Did he cry? Beg to come back? I shook my head. Not yet. Said he's going to Tom's. Sarah snorted. Tom? He'll boot him in a week when Jake starts leaving socks everywhere. You did right not taking it. How's Sophie? I sighed. Asked today if Daddy's playing with Miss Kelly now. I said he's on a business trip. Sarah leaned back, shaking her head. God, what a mess. Look, if he comes crawling back, don't let him in. Guys like Jake don't change. Want me to come over with wine and burn his old shirts? I smiled for the first time that day. Maybe. But first, I'm switching Sophie's daycare. I can't face Kelly. Sarah raised her cup like a toast. To new beginnings, girl. No jerks, no cheap perfume. A week later, Jake started calling. I'd moved Sophie to Little Stars, a daycare 5 miles away with older teachers who didn't wear miniskirts. His first call came Tuesday night while I folded Sophie's laundry. Emily, let's talk, he said, voice rehearsed like he'd practiced in a mirror. Nothing to talk about, Jake. You said it all groping Kelly in our car. I snapped and hung up. He called again the next day. Emily, I messed up, I admit it. Give me a chance, for Sophie, he pleaded. I stood in the kitchen, holding Sophie's unicorn dress, anger boiling in my chest. For Sophie? Were you thinking of her when you were kissing her teacher? No, Jake. No more chances, I said and blocked his number. But he wouldn't quit. Saturday night, I heard a knock. Sophie was asleep. I was on the couch with a glass of cheap wine. Sarah had dropped off a $8 Pinot Grigio. I peeked through the window and saw Jake with his bag, wearing that same wrinkled shirt from the daycare, now with a ketchup stain. Emily, let me in. I get it, I was an idiot, he said through the glass. I opened the door but didn't let him in. Jake, you got that right, you're an idiot. What, Kelly dumped you so you're back? He looked down. No, I left her. Emily, I want us. I scoffed. I don't want you. Get out before Sophie wakes up. He lingered, mumbling apologies, but I shut the door and went back to my wine. It was trashy, sure, but I'm glad I saw it myself. Living with Jake any longer would have been hell. Sarah came over that weekend with pizza and helped me rearrange furniture to ditch his vibe, she said. Sophie and I managed. I worked. She loved her new daycare, and life slowly got better. Jake stopped calling, and I thought he'd given up. I was wrong. One night, a month after I kicked him out, I heard an engine rumbling outside. Sophie was asleep. I was at the kitchen table, checking work emails on my laptop. I glanced out the window and froze. Our old Toyota Camry sat in the driveway, Jake behind the wheel. Next to him, in the passenger seat, was Kelly, same denim skirt, messy ponytail, cigarette in hand. They were yelling, waving their arms, Then Jake jumped out and pounded on my door. "Emily, open up." "I'll explain," he shouted, his voice shaky with anger or beer. I could smell it through the door crack. I stood there, phone in hand, ready to call the cops. "Jake, get out of here before I do," I yelled. But then Kelly stumbled out, screaming, "Emily, it's your fault. He came back to me because of you, and now he wants you again." Her voice squeaked like an annoyed seagull, and I felt everything boil over. I flung the door open, stepped onto the porch, and stared them down, Jake with his pathetic look, Kelly clutching her cigarette like it made her tough. "Listen up, both of you," I said, my voice cold as the autumn wind whistling through the trees. "Jake, you chose her when you pawed her in our car. Kelly, you knew he was married and went for it anyway. Now you're here whining about each other? You deserve each other. But I'm done with the circus." I pulled the spare Toyota keys from my pocket, the set he forgot to take, and hurled them into the puddle at their feet. "Take your car and get lost. Show up again, and I won't just call the cops. I'll sue you for alimony that'll make your head spin, Jake." Jake stood there, blinking like he couldn't believe it. Kelly stomped out her cigarette and started squealing, but I turned, walked inside, and slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. Through the glass, I watched them climb back in, argue some more, and finally peel out, leaving a cloud of exhaust and that cheap perfume stench. I went back to the kitchen, poured another glass of wine, and smiled. "Emily Johnson," I said aloud, "you're badass. And no one's ruining your life again." The next day, I ordered a new deadbolt for the door, and Sophie drew me a new unicorn, this time with 2 wings. We stuck it on the fridge, and I knew this was our fresh start. No Jake, no Kelly, no trash. Just us and a whole life ahead.